part of the holiday project. We are currently part, as far as where we are in the design process right now, we are in the brainstorming, researchy phase of the design process. You've received the concept and the parameters from the client, which is basically what the handout was, which also gave you a timeline on when things needed to be done. So that part of the design process is underway. And I had you make a list of 50 associated terms, which is part of brainstorming. So now we're going to move on to the process where we're going to start to develop concepts and thumbnails. And so to do this, I happen to be in Illustrator in Essentials Classic mode, which is my normal way that I work in Illustrator, but you can do this process totally by hand if you want. Normally I will do it on a sheet of grid paper, but I just, to make this whole transition from different things that I'm going to be doing, it will just be so much easier if I just do it all on screen. So it's your choice. You can do it by hand or you can do it on some paper. Do you need grid paper? No, it just makes it a little bit easier to draw the lines. That's it. Okay, so what we're going to do is take our list of associated terms. Now on my, for Illustrator, I'm just going to go ahead and make a standard letter size document just in case I want to print this stuff out. So I'm going to do a Command N and I am going to do a letter size document in inches. Landscape is fine because we're making a grid. And so it's going to go ahead and pop open. All right. And I'm going to do a Command R to turn on the rulers. And then I can also come up to View and turn on a grid. Okay. Just to make life a little bit simpler. Okay. Now, I've asked you to make a list of 50, and I sure hope you were honest about it and did come up with your list of 50. But what I want you to do is take the 30 best from that 50, okay? The 30 best from that 50 and go ahead, and we're going to lay it out in the grid here, okay? And you can lay it out in the grid however you want. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and kind of start up here in the corner, just like I would if I was using graph paper. I would just be using a pen to make this happen. Okay, look, it's at 5.5 or 0.5, so I actually want that to be right on the nose, and so there it goes. Okay, and what I'm going to do is well, I don't need to really do anything. I don't even know why am I doing a guide? I don't need to do a guide. I'm going to get rid of the guide. I'm actually going to make a line. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way from one side to the other. I'm going to start right here on this block, and I'm going to do a shift drag all the way over here and release it. Okay, for some reason I want it to be 90, so I'm making some adjustments up here in my menu bar. Okay, it was slightly off of the grid. Let's see if my snap to grid is on. Okay, I'm going to turn on my snap to grid so I don't have to worry about that so much anymore. Okay, so what I'm going to do is drag duplicate. So I'm going to do an click, Option Shift, drag it down. Did that happen? I think it did. It's just that it's invisible right now. Okay. So I made a whole bunch of them and they're invisible, but they're right there. See, there they are. And I am going to go ahead and I'm going to colorize them. Really, I'm going to make them black. I don't need it to be 1 point. In fact, that's probably just a bit too big. So I'm going to go with like a 1/2 point line, okay? Just so they don't clutter everything too badly, okay? And I would do the same thing going the other direction. Let's see how many I've got. I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 1, 2. Okay, so I'm getting 4 from each one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 4 is 28, 29, 30, 31. So I've actually got one more than I really need, which is fine. I'll go ahead and delete this top one. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go the opposite way here. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. And my list is going to be on top, so I'm going to start pretty close. I'm going to go from right here. I'm going to drag down. Then I'm going to come in here and fine-tune things. So that should be, oh, no. Well, that'll work. I'm not going to get too stressed out about it. That'll work. That's perfect. Okay. Now I am going to Option, click, and then start dragging it. I'm going to drag it the same distance over. Okay. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay. Ooh, I actually have more room over here, so I may put my list over here. All right. In any case, so what I've done is I've made room on vertically and horizontally for my list of 30 greatest terms. Okay. And so then you would end up writing them in if you're doing it by hand or if you're doing it manually. Like I can do it this way, and I can just go ahead and type in different words like, okay, snowman. Let's just say my holiday's Christmas, okay? I'm going to shrink my font a bit there. Okay. Well, I've got Snap to Grid on. That's why I better turn off Snap to Grid. View. Turn off Snap to Grid so that I can do some fine adjustments here. Because I want it to kind of be in the middle. All right. So I am going to Option drag straight down. Okay. And then I'm going to do a Command D, and make my way down. Oops, I'm starting to get close to the edge. Okay. Must have gotten a little bit off on my measurements. That's okay. Does it have to be centered? No. It doesn't need to be centered in these things any more than it would be if I was doing it manually by hand. Okay. And I'm not going to do a whole bunch of them. I'm only going to do a few. You'll get the idea as we move along. And I'm replicating this text box, and I'm just going to change the text in it each time as I go down. And their positioning should be good as I go along for other stuff too. So, okay, so let's say snowflake. Star, I'm doing Christmas, remember? Tree. Candy cane. Pine. That's a smell. Okay. I could do joy, which is an emotion of the holiday. Music. That could be caroling or otherwise. Okay, presents. Okay. And Santa, of course. We have stockings. And we have, I don't know, some other things. Chocolate. Okay. Fire. Lights, like Christmas lights. Milk. Cookies. Baking. Elves. Okay. So there's a good bunch of words there for me. So candy cane must be 2 words, which is fine. Okay, I could have just as easily put mint in there. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so I've got some of my terms. So you would list all 30 terms out, okay? But I'm not going to do that. You guys are going to do that. I'm not going to do that, okay? So I selected all those words, and I'm going to unselect the rest of these so that I only have the words, okay? And I am going to copy the words. Command C for copy. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do a Command V, okay? And what I'm going to do is, these guys are sitting right here, and I'm going to go ahead and click, hold the Shift key down, okay? And it stacked the words, which I'm not too worried about, okay? It's not a big deal. I'm definitely going to have to pull the leading in a whole bunch if I'm going to do that, though. So I'm going to go into Character, and I'm going to pull the leading down a whole heck of a lot there. Okay. So I'm kind of running out of room. Yeah, I don't have much room on the bottom, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I would need to compress them probably even more, so I could go like 8 point. And then they're actually starting to almost fit, okay? Anyway, so you can see that it's the same list of words, okay, where elves is right there and so on and so forth. The reason it did that is because I didn't just click and release to make these text boxes. I'm not going to get too worried about that, all right? Because I can read these words. I know what I'm trying to do here, all right? Great. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make a giant X, okay? So I'm just going to do a capital X. It doesn't matter what font I use. Who cares? I'm going to make it fairly large. Oops. I'm going to make it fairly large, and I'm going to make it bold. Actually, I'm going to make it black, okay? And I could just do this with dots or whatever. It really doesn't matter, okay? And what we're trying to do is come up with some good combinations. Like, you know, maybe not so much predictable solutions like tree and presents, you know. Really, it's just about checking some combinations that really work together fairly well. Like elves. Let's just say elves and stockings. Okay. Oops. Okay. So I have tree and presents. What about Santa and music? Okay, so I could do Santa and music. So there's music right there. Okay, and fire and pine or fire and tree probably wouldn't be a great combination. But I could do fire and elves. Elves are so diverse. I could do fire and elves. Where's fire? Okay, so there I have 4 combinations, and do as many of these as you want. It's really just about finding something that's going to work. I could do fire and snowman. That would be fine. Okay, so now I have 5 different combinations. It doesn't matter what order I put those words in. Okay, so basically I have, let's see, I have fire and snowman. And I have elves and stockings. Okay, and I have fire and elves. Presents and tree, even though that's kind of predictable. And then my last one is music, Santa and music. Now remember, I've asked you to come up with 5 concepts to work with, okay? So these are the 5 concepts that I am going to work with. Now I'm going to turn off my grid. I am going to hide my grid, make it go away. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. So there's my grid. Now since I'm an illustrator, I could have had these words go off into the copy space, but that's okay. I'm not necessarily going to do that. Okay, so what do I need to do now? What I need to do now is set up a sheet that I'm going to do my thumbnails on. Okay, now I've asked you to do 4 thumbnails for each set of concepts. Okay, what that means is this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come, I've gotten my artboard tool, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an artboard. Oops. Okay, so I am going to add an artboard. Okay, letter size. I'm going to make it portrait. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and add another one because it's probably going to take 2 of them to fit all these thumbnails on. Now, thumbnails are supposed to be proportional. Okay. Even though the handout says 12 by 15, what that's meant to be is the space once we put the liner in and we have matting and all that, okay? Your poster is going to be 11 by 17, so those are the proportions you should be using. So how do I work all that out? Well, you can simply make a rectangle and make it 11 okay, by 15 or 17, 11 by 17, tell it okay. Okay, and I have this giant shape, okay, but I'm not worried about that. I am not worried about that. Now I need to switch the fill and the stroke, so I'm going to come over here and go boop and flip them, okay. Now, all I need to do is maintain the proportions of this, and this will be my thumbnail guide or whatever I want to use. Okay, so that's if I wasn't just going to go ahead and make rectangles by hand. But understand, your thumbnails and your roughs are supposed to be in proportion to your finished product. Okay, so I'm going to click on a corner and then I'm going to go Option Shift so that it drags to the middle. Okay, and I'm going to make it fairly small. Okay, thumbnails don't need to be big. Really, it's just about basic concepts. Okay, and so I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to make it a full stroke. Okay, and I've asked you to do 4 per. Okay, so I'm going to do a Command D. Okay, and we have 5 concepts total. I may get them to all fit on one. Oops. I did not mean to unselect that. Option Shift. Command D, Command D. Well, I got close. And I suppose if I smashed them in, I could make them all fit, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put another one over here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click. And now I'm just typing. It doesn't need to be 7-point type for sure. I'm just going to do like some 11-point. It doesn't need to be black. I'm going to go regular. Okay, so I have fire and snowman. And I have elves and stockings. And I have fire and elves. And I have Santa and present. I think I'm misspelling presents. And tree. And my last one is over here, and it will be Santa and music. Okay, so do these have to be on there? No, it's just so that I can keep track of things in my mind. Now, the purpose of this grid is not to stifle your creativity in any way, shape, or form. What it's there to do is when you're thinking about things, your mind is just going all over the place. And a lot of times our mind is going to grab a hold of a concept, and we don't want to grab hold of a concept. At this stage of the game, it is about not being married to anything. Don't have any idea what you think you're going to do. And if you do, that's okay, because we're going to try some different things as well, and we may end up liking those instead. That's one reason I made you do 50 terms, is to really push the amount of words that you can come up with representing this, okay? And you would use these terms to create things called mood boards. Mood boards have a couple different definitions. One of them is simply to get you in the mood. It's just a reference for imagery, colors, smells, whatever. But in any case, so don't let this stifle your creativity. This is to help. This is to help organize your thoughts and to help you travel outside. If you didn't have this over on the side, some different combinations, you would probably just have, I think of trees and presents, and I can't get out of that column. I can't get out of trees and presents. All I can think of is trees and presents. Well, what are some other combinations that we could use? Could we use 3 words? Yes, we could use 3 words, but I'm trying to keep it relatively simple. And so what I would do is print these out and then scribble on these things, okay? Now understand these basic concepts as you're putting this together, okay? I'm going to give you a formal demo of how to make your roughs and everything work better for next week, but this week all you're doing is thumbnailing. Those have to be done by Wednesday, and then you're going to start roughing, okay? But in order for that to all work out, you need to know what you can do and what you can't do. Okay, the first thing is to understand that you are using the entire word. Merry Christmas. Okay, so that is, I have to use all of these letters somewhere in the design. I have to. That's the way it works, okay? I have to use all of these letters. Now, I also gave you strict guidelines on what fonts you can use and what fonts you can't use, okay? So right now on Myriad Pro, let me switch to a font that I did approve, which would be like Helvetica. I could use a traditional Helvetica there. There we go. I could make it a little bit more intense, okay? Now, I can use Helvetica Bold, okay? And I can use Helvetica, okay? Keep it keep it in a narrow, don't add italics, okay? Keep it within one set of fonts, okay? So for me, it's going to be this and this, okay? These are what I'm going to use to make everything on this. One of the guiding principles for this poster is to maintain figure and ground relationships. We want an even balance. You don't want to fill up the entire thing with imagery, or there's no background. There's no figure ground relationship balance. Okay, it just becomes one thing or the other. So we're trying to come up with a very balanced, very even way of looking at these things, okay? So here's Merry Christmas, okay? And I have to build these out of the letters, but understand this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, okay? You can fill in these characters. When the characters cross over each other, like right here, I could fill that in, okay? Where the characters cross over each other, I can fill those spaces in. Okay, I can fill in the Y. Okay, I can rotate the Y as many times as I want. The fonts don't have to be recognizable as letter forms anymore, but you can't distort them. Okay, I can't go ahead and take the C. I'm going to go ahead and turn this into outline. So I'm going to create outlines here. Okay, and then I'm going to ungroup. Okay, so now they're individual things. Okay, so what you can't do is this, okay? You can't modify letters like that, okay? I'm going to do a Command Z. I can't do this, okay? What I can do is I can rotate it, I can flip it, I can do all sorts of things, okay? I can duplicate it. You know, that exercise where we were doing some of that tracing, that was kind of preparing you for this particular situation, okay? So I could fill this in, okay? So Merry Christmas, and I'm thinking of, okay, so Santa and music, okay? I can fill this in. I can fill counter spaces in, okay? I can get rid of the dot on the I, okay? I can use capitals, okay? So I can use majestuals and minuscules. I can use capitals and lowercase. Okay, all within the same font. Okay, you have some options. Okay, so one of these R's could be a capital R. That's fine. Okay, I could probably come up with some interesting things to do with an R. Okay, and so it's about creating these interesting shapes and designing with the type itself. Now, the handout that I gave you last week has 3 examples at the bottom. They're all Halloween. Sorry, that's what I had to work with. But it gives you some ideas. So when you're thumbnailing, don't just thumbnail. Think about what letters you're going to make those shapes out of. So if I'm going to do stockings, what shape am I going to use to do the stockings? Okay? And you can come up with all sorts of interesting ways to do it. But what you are doing is using nothing more than type to design a unique and interesting and eye-catching poster. If you also look at the handout, you'll see that at some point you're also going to have to put, the text, inviting them to come to the event. You're going to see stuff about, hey, I need to go ahead and do this or that. When's the time? Where do I get tickets? Who's providing food? All of that stuff. There's going to need to be some kind of, you need to be aware of that type fitting in. But right now, I just want you to be working with base core concepts, okay? And then what I'm going to do is tell you 5 different things to continue to rough out, okay? So I'm going to pick one from each of your thumbnail lists and tell you, okay, go run with that. Make something happen with that. And then when we're doing sketches, which is the last half of the week, what I want for those sketches is you're going to take this basic core concept, which is your thumbnail, and make it a little bit bigger. Maybe think a little bit more about how I'm going to build this thing with fonts. It can still be done by hand. It doesn't need to be done on the computer. The only important thing is proportional. Okay? I'm not giving any of you permission to do a landscape poster. You are doing a portrait poster, 11 by 17. So maintain those proportions as we move along. Okay? Don't forget you only have a certain number of colors to work with. Okay? So for Halloween, you can either use orange and black and white, okay, white being the paper, or you can do kind of a green black and white, or I'm even willing to go to purple black and white for Halloween if you're interested in doing that. So that gives you a broad overview of our next few steps. Build your grid, select some concepts, start thumbnailing those concepts. Basic concepts. I don't need to know where text is going. You just need to kind of have a mind that you're going to be building this with type. What are some ideas? Okay. Develop interesting croppings. Don't think that everything has to be in the middle of the page. Okay. This sitting here in the middle is boring. Okay. Whereas if I do something like this, okay, now all of a sudden that poster has some dynamics. It has a pitfall, okay? It has something interesting going on in it, okay? What if I were to take these R's and put them in there too? You know, like what if this is like a spinning saw blade or something, and I could make a whole bunch more of them, and, you know, so make it interesting. Don't be afraid to chop off some of the letter. It doesn't need to all fit on that 11 by 17. Nothing is worse than a poster with centered aligned text and center aligned objects. Nobody wants to look at it because it's boring. Don't make boring. Okay. And then after on Wednesday, I'm going to go, it'll be Thursday morning, but on Thursday morning, I'm going to go through all of these and I'm going to give you directions, 5 different directions to go, and then you're going to make them a little bit bigger and just a little bit more refined. You can either do your sketches portion on the computer or you can do it by pencil. It really doesn't matter to me. Or pen doesn't matter to me. A lot of people will thumbnail with pens so that they can't erase because happy accidents start to happen in thumbnails. That's why you don't throw them away either. And one of the reasons I don't like to thumbnail on the computer is the computer lets you delete concepts. As you move things around, it doesn't remember the other way that you did something. Whereas if you're doing it by hand, it doesn't go anywhere. It's right there, and you can keep going it. And you don't have to limit yourself to only 4 thumbnails, okay, per concept. You can do as many thumbnails per concept as you want. I'm just saying you can't do any less than 4, all right? So I hope that gives you some guidance. If that seems crazy and you don't know what I'm talking about, then show up for the office hour on Monday, which will be from 4 to 6. Okay? You guys have a great day. Enjoy, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.